Welcome to the Choose Joy podcast. Come inside, take you on a ride and show you how to align. This is for my people who can hustle and grind. They put the bag on the line, overwhelmed inside. It's the Choose Joy podcast. Come inside. This is for my people who can hustle and grind. Love yourself, loving others. The storm is alive. Be patient with yourself, success won't pass you by. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Choose Joy podcast. I have the real OG, Jerry Durham, in the house, y'all. It's giving 25 plus years as a PT, 20 plus years in the business game, y'all. When I first saw this man, it might have been like 2018 or 2019.
Oh, really?
Because you were at Greg's live event.
You are correct.
I just remember you walked in your suit and it was a bottle of brown and you sat in the back. And I said, I don't know who this man is, but he about to be my adopted uncle in my head. I'm so happy to have you on, Jerry.
Well, I'm happy to be here, and I hope I can contribute to the conversation that you have started, and I think is a great conversation to be had.
Yes, listen. So let's jump right in. For this, you've been listening. The Choose Joy podcast is all about how do we have joy and happiness in the midst of building the business, and even hey, I've reached success, but I'm dealing with anxiety. I can't turn my thoughts off. But there's all these other internal battles that happen, and so those are the things that I want to uncover.
I think that's a great conversation. I definitely have some reflection in my journey and have some thoughts about right? That's what you do when you get to be 56 years old. You go, it's funny because in healthcare, everybody's like, right, they want to talk about evidence-based medicine and they slowly chip away at your experience. And you're like, but my experience is my experience. So we can't disregard, right? I can't disregard your experience. We can't disregard our client's experience. Can't disregard my experience. So again, just sharing my experience and going, okay, here's where I started. Here I am today. How did I get here? How might I change some of that? And by the way, then knowing other people that have moved through that and been successful or not successful, and then reflecting on that, and not as a judgment, but as a, hey, how can that help me? Right.
For sure.
So, yeah. So, I mean, that's all I hope to bring today is my observances, my biases, my beliefs, and my experience. So there you go. And as everybody knows, I'm happy to share. It's hard to get me not to share, right? It's probably a little bit of an overshare most of the time, but I'm happy to share.
I'm always here for it. I'm like, let's buckle in for the ride. Okay, so I'm gonna just jump it off. Let's talk about a time, right, in this vast, journey of yours where it's, hey, I had this obstacle, I had this challenge, and I had to shift the mindset to joy amidst the difficulty, right? So I can make it through. Is there a time that you can think of that comes to mind right now?
Yeah, I love the way you put that. So you embrace it, right? Because if you're going to fight it, then it can't be joyful, right? But if you embrace it, then it becomes part of the process and part of the journey. Now, it took me a long time to figure this part out, right? That the journey is actually right. The destination can't be right. You can't tie your joy to the destination or outcome. Here we go right now. You have to tie, and again, this is me speaking. You have to tie that excitement and pleasure and everything else to the journey. So I see this outcome. I see this desired outcome way down here. And by the way, patience, anybody, right? I see this desired outcome down there, right? Cool. Right now, I like to just say, it's like looking at the map. I want to go from LA to New York. Cool. You get excited, but now it's about the journey. Mm-hmm. Is it bus? Is it car? Is it walk? Is it plane? Is it train? Is it automobile? Right. Now you have to really dig into the process. And by the way, you can do it any way you want. No one can tell you it's the wrong way. Yet you gotta go into it with an open mind, right? It could be the wrong way. But some of us know the best way to learn is through our, I don't even like to say mistakes, is through, right, choices we made that didn't pan out how we thought. So we go, cool, what can I learn from this, right? And so back to your original question, there are probably a lot of different places. But the biggest one was, I'm going to tell you, probably the biggest one, and the one I refer to most, is I had created something, a physical therapy business. I had a partner, right? And we created multiple sites, multiple employees. And we decided because it was a business decision that we had to go out and network at some point. It was probably about 8 years in to the business, 6 to 8 years in. And right now, this is what's interesting. So here we go. And I know there are a lot of people experiencing this now. So we say, cool, we have to do this. We're going to do it, because the option was to close or to go out and network. It's like, you want to close? No, neither do I. Cool. Let's make a run for it, right? Let's make a run at it. So we committed to it, right? Committed to this destination, to this goal. So now we said, okay, let's figure out the process. So we said, cool, let's ask other people for advice in our profession. By the way, I'm going to say part of the way to make sure that you're getting the information you need and want, right? If I'm going to make a trip from LA to New York, I'm going to look at all the options and then decide what's best for me. I didn't do that. So we go out and network, and I said, oh, I'm going to talk to the same people. I didn't say this part out loud, but this is how it ended up. I'm going to talk to the same people I've always been talking to, the same people that have been giving me advice to get me here. And when I went back to them, I basically got the majority of responses were one of two. It was either you can't do that, or sorry, I can't help you. You can't do that. That won't work. Right. And that was coming from within the profession. So again, kept asking people. Some people said, you can't do that. And I'm like, I have no other option. I have to quit. I'm not going to quit. Well, you can't do that. And I went, thanks for the feedback. I'll get back to you later. Right. Mm-hmm. By the way, I like to tell people I am Italian, so I hold a slight grudge. I don't hold a big grudge, but I remember most of those people, right? Yeah. So then, right, we just kept looking, kept asking till someone said, yeah, you can do that. Right. And we found that people said, yeah, you can do that, and we can help you outside of the profession. So we had to go outside of healthcare to find those people to say, yeah, you can do that, and we can help you. And that was a huge part for me. And by the way, you want to talk about a joyful process. This is what's funny. So you take this thing that almost closed us down, and we're faced with closing or going forward. Then you have all these people telling us no, and it's like, And then you find this group, and they say, yeah, you can do that, and we'll help you. And probably five of the best years of my whole journey was with that group. So knowing that here was the process to follow, here's where we have to invest our time, money, and energy. And it was a great group of people, great times, great learning. And I'm here today to speak on this stuff because of that group. So again, choosing, being told no, okay, forget it, we quit, or going, right? Not getting and again, this is looking back on reflection. I think I just didn't want to be honest, I didn't want to be the guy who failed. Right. So you just keep asking until someone says, yeah, we can help you. And you're like, oh, and then you realize, right, you start checking some boxes, but that's for another day. But yeah, so it was like, cool. And then it was, by the way, literally fun, entertaining, joyful. And then on top of all that, I got all the business shit I needed to continue our business moving forward.
I love that. And when you were talking, something that came up for me is just, it's a different time, but like this need to have influences outside of
you really
the physical therapy.
And by the way, and realize when I was doing this, and I say this so you understand that I've been on both sides of the fence. It's not this, I walked up school in this uphill in the snow both ways to school routine. But when I entered the profession and even started my business, there was barely cell phones and there was barely internet. So the access to information and the access to people and groups like I'm talking about, right, was not there. So we had to look harder for it. I'm telling you, man, it should take you about 10 minutes to find, right? So back to your point, access is awesome. Access to information to say, right? Instead of typing in physical therapy all the time, just type in, right? In successful physical therapy practice, type in successful business practices, right?
Right.
And boy, you're going to get more information in 1 second than I ever got in probably 2-3 years. So yeah, so there is a way to leverage all this information. People are like, oh, it's too much. I'm like, meh. Again, no, what's where am I today? What's my destination? What are my options? And go looking for your options, right? That's all I was doing, right? How can I get from LA to New York? Oh, there's by the way, type that in now, you'll know all your options. Then you're going to start researching, right? Which one do I want to dive into?
We're spoiled. When you said that, and it didn't even like register to me. Like, I started this, there was barely internet and phones. And so for us to have this much information, we out here complaining.
Well, and this is what's interesting. When people, hey, by the way, when 50, 60, 70-year-old people complain about, oh, this internet and all this distraction, I'm like, fuck that. No, it is a good thing. You're only looking at the bad parts of it. There's so much good to be had out of it. Access to information, if we so choose, right? Now, we all know the more we keep typing in the same thing, by the way, this is everywhere. The more you keep tapping on the same thing. And by the way, I'm very purposeful anymore. Like on Instagram, very purposeful. My feed is basically baseball,
okay,
raccoons, music, and business. And I've been very purposeful, and the raccoons are my favorite part. And I've been very, very purposeful. And I'm looking at my algorithm these days, and I'm like, damn, I think I did a good job. And thank you for paying attention to what I was doing, as opposed to Twitter, which has become a cluster. But that's for another day. So again, we still have control of it. That's why, oh, it's so bad. I'm like, well, quit typing Fox News or CNN News, quit typing Republican or Democrat, right? Don't type those things in, right? It's like, if I type in physical therapy business all the time, that's all I'm going to see.
Yes.
But what happens one day if I go instead of successful physical therapy business, I type in successful businesses? That's how I got here. Because when I found that group I told you about, so I asked. It was a business group, a non-P. There was only 100 members, all founders. Only one other healthcare practitioner in there, and they were in like cosmetic surgery. So it was so, I'm not saying it's not a healthcare provider. They were an MD, but it was so far away. It wasn't like chiropractors and MDs and personal trainers. No, that's part of the reason I joined the group, because 98 people were not in healthcare. And so it was this business expertise that got me here. And so again, searching, right? So I don't say, it is, I say leverage it. I think it's awesome, right? I'm like, wow, all this access. Oh, it's not good. I'm like, ultimately, yeah, it is. Yeah, it is. And then, right, we create the algorithm. So meaning you create yours, I create mine, right?
For sure. The biggest thing I got from that is the ask. We are so quick to give up and to get frustrated. Yeah,
that's a whole nother conversation to be had for sure, for the people I talked to today, right? And me. So just for context, for anybody listening, anything I say will come back to part of my journey and me. So, right, when I talk about big egos, I still have a big ego, but at least I acknowledge it. And I think I've tempered it down than where I was, right? Because asking is all about, I can do this. I run into this every day. Ran into it today already. Oh yeah. Having a conversation, I bring something up and they go, oh yeah. And I'm like, okay. That's one of my favorite answers. Yeah. And I'm like, that means move on. I know this. And I'm like, but you haven't even acknowledged it. And you just told me you weren't doing that. So what's the yeah for?
That part. Oh man. Okay. So I have a question on you, sort of on like the marketing sales side,
Sure.
but also, I don't know if it's going to come out right, but how do you navigate okay, I'll say this, right? I will say, I bought into this idea of, how in 30 days or less, you can have XYZ, you can get the millions, you can get the, right? And that's what we see as the outcome in the sales, right? Talk about the dream outcome, right? I buy into that, right? Many people buy into that. And then we get into whatever it is, the course, the program. And we don't necessarily have the knowledge that this is a process and journey that takes time. It's not actually going to happen in 30 days. Like, it's some BS is going to happen, right? So how do you navigate those waters? Like I get the sales process, right? This is what people, right? People have a short attention span. They want to know the outcome. But then also when they get there, it's like, okay, I had to do this to get you in the door because this is like human nature and psychology, but also this is the real. Because I feel like I definitely, I bought into this thing thinking in a year. And I was like, oh, this is not going like I thought. Wait, I'm confused.
So this is what's interesting. The longer I'm in boat, right, digging deeper into the business world and meeting business people and talking business, and the longer I'm in both of these, I got to tell you, physical therapy and business success parallel each other, because the way I would explain a great marketing, sales, and retention process is exactly the way we should manage a person who needs our help. And I would argue, and we can do this on another call, is I would argue every great business on the face of the earth is managing people like we should manage our plans of care. How you like that? There you go. So I'd say other businesses have already figured out how we need to manage people. We need to, let's go back to what we're talking about. We need to let the ego go. We need to understand where our superpower is, right? This is a lot of the work I do. When I started to invest and engage and empower the people without the initials in my business took off. So think about this. It was a physical therapy business.
Wait,
and I
say it
this,
again. You said when you started to what? Say it again.
Invest and empower and train the people who didn't have the initials behind their name in my business, my front desk team, the billing team, people like that. The business took off. Now check this out. When I tell you the business took off, that means we had greater patient success. Well, geez, Jerry, that's weird. You weren't training your PTs. I'm like, no, we still train the PTs. We just invested equally into the rest of the team. And guess what? People magically got better. They had a better experience. They were happier. We had less negative reviews. But I didn't do anything with my PTs. I just brought everybody else on the team around this idea of patient success is a team effort. And that in a completed plan of care involves the front desk team, involves providers, involves the billing team. So let's go back to your original question, because I love your question. That's a great question. So here's the thing. That green book back there, I'll tell you the title later. That green book back there has been hugely impactful to answer the question you just had. It literally right there has been hugely impactful to answer this question. Don't sell the outcome. You mention the outcome. I ask you what outcome you desire. Then I talk and sell the journey. Remember where we started this conversation? Where is the happiness? Where is the real? Where is the work? Where should our focus be? Where should the moment be? It should be in the journey, not the destination. Now, we have to know our destination. Go back to where I started. We have to know our destination to create this journey, but we need to sell a journey. Everything you said, anybody who's listening to this, roll back and listen to the question again, because you nailed it. Oh, I'm in this process. It's not working. Wait, what? If I go into the mindset that it's about the journey, then I build in everything you just asked. I build all that into that. So you and I are constantly checking in. I'm constantly referring to this destination and where you are today, and how what we did today has now moved us one step closer. Now, I have to have the courage, and I have to have the self-awareness, and I have to let my ego go for when you show up the next day and we've taken 2 steps back. I need to show you how, yes, We have moved farther from the destination, but guess what? We're going to course correct today and do these 3 things, and let's check it out. This is the work. This is the work. This is the work. I'm going to say this again. This is the work that the greater than 50% of our profession is not willing to do and needs to be done to make us successful. Is we need to embrace this plan of care, and we need to embrace this journey, and we need to come alongside. By the way, everybody's like, oh, empathy, burnout, everything. I'm like, it's because you don't do this with people, right? So I'll say this, if you actually did this, by the way, you know what else would happen if you did this? You wouldn't have 15 new patients on your schedule this week because there'd be no room. I'm like, I used to have let me go into this. My employees used to come to me, Jerry, why do I have so many new patients on my schedule? I'm like, because you haven't booked out your current people. I'm like, if you book out the current people, there would be no spaces, and therefore you wouldn't have so many new patients. I'm like, I'm not a rocket scientist. You're not a rocket scientist. Do we both understand this? Meaning this idea of managing a person through a course of care is the priority. Not fucking new patients, not visits, not units billed. It's taking, I have my clients with their team track metrics that make the patient the focus, right? I'll tell you a big tell of this. So remember, I want everybody to remember the question you asked, right? It is about the journey. It is about the journey. And if I bring you onto the business and I tell you this, then I have to give you the systems and the training to show you this. And I'll tell you, one of the biggest tells on the face of the earth of any PT clinic, so you're sitting there for your first interview, I'm sitting there, is who manages drop-offs. And the answer is, it depends where they are in their journey with the business. If it's before they arrive, the front desk owns that drop off. If it happens after visit 2 or 3, the provider owns that drop off. So what I love asking in front, and I'll be at PPS next week, I love getting in front of a room of practice owners. And
what's PPS?
Private practice section of the American Physical Therapy Association.
Yeah, gotcha.
So I love getting in front of that group and saying to the owners, who owns drop-offs? Well, our providers do. I say, well, so tell me how they manage it. Well, the front desk brings them a list. I'm like, they don't know their patient dropped off the schedule. This is someone who's on their schedule, who has asked you, the PT, to come alongside of them with their journey. They're investing their time, money, and energy. You put together a plan of care for them, and you don't know they're not coming in anymore. I'm like, I'm confused. So again, we're still into your question. If you come on board, take any product, take anything, and have a conversation with you at the beginning, again, about your desired outcome. Again, I swear, think about that LA to New York. You're here today, you want to be here tomorrow. My job is to show you the space in between and to tell you what that journey is going to look like. Now, you and I both know. And this is the other thing I have to do, and this is where we have to lose egos. So I say, Sherrill, we're going to go from LA to New York and we're going to drive. You're like, awesome. Now, we can't predict the weather. We can guess, we can guesstimate, we can talk about this journey, but guess what? There are going to be bumps in the road. We're going to have setbacks. So how are you going to manage those setbacks? Are you prepared as the expert who's coming alongside this person on the journey to manage his setbacks? What are you going to do when it rains? What are you going to do when it snows? What are you going to do when they come in with more pain? What are you going to do when the exercise you gave them doesn't work? What are you going to do when they walk in flared up? Are they prepared? Have you had that conversation?
Ooh.
So I say sell the journey, not the outcome. Because by the way,
I didn't know.
4 visits in, you're not better. Maybe it's time for you to go back to the doctor, to get referred to another specialist, to see someone else in the office. But I got to step up and go, Sherrill, here's where we started. Here's where you want to go. Here's where we are. Based on these 3 or 4 things and where we are today, I believe your next best step is this. and it may not include me. That's better healthcare.
And that's a dropping your ego as well. You said so much. I'm still trying to process. I still was not expecting this. Oh my gosh. So many things.
Well, you asked great questions. You asked a great question. I love that question, because that goes back to the journey, right? Everything is a journey, right? I'm on a journey. You're on a journey. Our patients are on a journey. So the better we understand, you know what else we do in PT? This is it. This is the only part of your journey we care about.
Mm-hmm.
Is that journey now that you're on with me, right? And then what do we do on day one? Yeah, we'll have you discharged. I'm like, why are we talking discharge? Let's just talk about their destination. That's another issue I have. Oh, look, yeah. Oh man, we get rid of people so quick, where I'm so proud of myself. I'm like, It's just a thing again. I'm not, it's not wrong, but it's not right, my friends. I always tell everybody, look, right? I like to ask questions where I'm like, there's a lot of right answers, but definitely, there's more than one right answer. But let me tell you, there are definite wrong answers on this thing too, right?
Absolutely. It's so funny. I've never, due to my journey, I am now in the clinic for the first time ever. Like, I've never worked for anybody as a physical therapist. So this is my first 6 weeks. And it's been so interesting conforming. And so when I'm hearing you talk, I'm like, oh, these are all the things that are happening that I am also having to conform to. And it's just so and 2 days ago, this man said to me, "You're not cold."
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. Pretty powerful, right?
I was like, what? He said, "You're not cold." I was like, and he was from the VA. And I was like, this is people's experience. And something else you talked about, the patient getting better being like a team effort. And that goes to more than just, the clinician. And I'm also finding that I'm having really good success with patients, but I'm not necessarily, I don't feel like I'm doing anything special.
Yeah, boy, what a time in your journey, huh? Isn't that interesting? And I tell you, everybody I respect in this profession has had that, where you start to own that. It's probably tied outside of this room, and I'm just allowing it, right? I'm just facilitating it.
But also it's like, I've been reflecting, and I really kind of believe it's the energy. Like, when I'm smiling, we're dancing, we're having a good time. They're laughing, and I almost feel like those 9 clinical parts get people excited to even show up, and then want to go home and do the things. Because I'm doing the same stuff the other clinicians are doing. I'm not doing anything different. I don't have no special.
That's great. Yeah, it's the experience. I like that word you said. It's the experience, and it's the experience that ties into, right? Yes. The experience is emotional, by the way. So happy, sad, joyful, right?
But I was thinking about what you said with the front desk. Like, I train the other people. So that's what I thought about. I was like, oh, I wonder, he made that comment. I wonder if that's why I'm having that experience. And that's what he's doing. He's training the other people around. And there's more moving parts of that, of course. But that's what I was just thinking about.
So, I mean, you and I both know, call your doctor today to get an appointment, right? It'll be straight to phone number, insurance, date of birth, right?
Right.
It's interesting. It's fucking healthcare. I call my doctor because there's a health question. It's a person, right? I love shoes. I love clothes. I love books, but I'm like, I love my Beastie Boys. I love music, but I'm like, those are all widgets and products. I mean, we deal with humans.
Yeah.
And it's insane how the disconnect. I've moved farther along in this profession and farther along in my work just by learning more about humans and right, and the emotional side. And And when I say humans, I'm probably talking the neck up, right?
Mm-hmm.
I got all these books on my shelf, and I smile sometimes. I'm like, there's no PT books on there. I have my PT books, but why the fuck would I read them, right? Anatomy doesn't change. Physiology, here, this is why. Anatomy hasn't changed. Physiology hasn't changed. But how people engage, right, in today's society versus other societies, what motivates people, all that neck up stuff is the stuff that makes us most successful.
But doesn't get taught in the system.
Now, and so again, we got to go outside. So, a lot of what I said about selling the journey, selling the outcome, getting this desired outcome, that all came out of the sales books. And by the way, the sales research way outdates the medical research on communication, stuff like that. I always laugh. And someone can probably find an article or two, but we have this term therapeutic alliance. Have you heard that term?
Yeah.
It's about the relationship built between a patient and a healthcare provider. It's called therapeutic alliance. And it's got all these parts to it. Yet the big takeaway, it shows that the better the therapeutic alliance, typically the better the result, the outcome. Mm-hmm. Well, the therapeutic alliance, when you really break it down and start to do the research, I'm like, all this stuff is in the sales books, how to talk to people, how to manage people. I'm like, this is in the sales research, and there's sales research going back into the, 100 years ago. I'm like, it was already there. And we're back to our egos. We had to create we had to create these words and research in our own literature to say, this is how you talk to people. I'm like, this shit's been around since the fucking dawn of time. We didn't need to recreate this, put our fucking name on it. So back to your example, I think you need to embrace that in anybody else, right? Know your client, know your customer, know the person that you're sitting across from. Yeah. So all this talk about research and the average person, it's like, I get it. And we need to understand that. But, by the way, you'll love this. I'm involved in some research that's showing cursing in healthcare relationships, therapeutic alliance, actually in a relationship where someone is okay with cursing, that cursing will increase, right, the likelihood of an outcome. So again, it's just knowing your client, because everybody always gets right. Everybody always gets so uptight. Well, but you can't do that. And I'm like, quit. God bless us all, right? You can't curse in front of everybody. And I'm like, no fucking shit. And so it's like, but this is part of understanding who is in front of you right now. How am I going to engage with this person by the way, this is the other thing. People buy from products and people they know, like, and trust. That's been since the dawn of time. So why does healthcare shoot that, right? Sit across from some jackass who doesn't look up from the computer or it's like, okay, by the way, that lowers trust. I put trust at the top of the scale, and everything below it that you knock out actually lowers trust. Communication, right? All this. So it doesn't matter how many initials, doesn't matter how many successful patients you've had. If you can't do some of these lower level stuff, you're knocking out the foundations of trust. And the trust it has to be there. Has to be there. I mean, how many times has someone asked you for an MD referral? And you always get two. Well, this one has really bad bedside manner, but they have good results. And this one has really bad bedside manner and good results. And this one has really good bedside manner. Everybody, 60, 70, 80% choose the second person.
But for sure. I would love your opinion on this idea of like self-care, right? People say self-care doesn't exist, right? You're going to go in the grind. You'll have seasons of grind and you'll have seasons of rest. What's your take on this, while building the business and even maintaining the business, right? You've reached success. What does that look like for you in your experience?
Yeah, I think it's about priorities, your priorities, right? Your priorities. So I don't believe in work-life balance. And let me tell you why. And it's not because, because I like making money. It's because work-life balance always implies give and take. Oh, you're always giving, or taking. It's a zero-sum game. Well, I'm like, hold up, right? I'm married. I got a house. I got dogs. I got kids. Oh, I have a business. I'm like, that fucking business, there's no work-life balance there, right? What there is there are daily priorities, right? There are priorities, and there is teamwork in the family. And by the way, it could be two people. You don't even need kids, and you don't need dogs, right? If they're two people, right? You've got to coordinate. What are the priorities? What are my priorities? And on any given day, we have to allow another, right? You have kids, right? Yeah, you're going through life. My priority on Wednesday is this. My priority on Thursday is this. My kid's sick today and can't go to school. Well, obviously your priorities just shifted overnight, and right. And just respect that. And other people have to respect that too, right? And so I think if we understand what are my priorities, what's important to me, where do I need to put my energy on a daily basis, then, and I'm going to say this out loud, there is no grind. It's just life, right? And there's work to be done. Starting a business is a lot of hard work. So did I do my due diligence in talking with my spouse and understanding where I need, what do I need to contribute financially, mentally, spiritually, physically, financially to this relationship while I'm doing this? And can I commit to that? And do I have someone on the other side who will acknowledge, that there are days when I can't give back to you, right? I can't do this. I can't do this, right? And so then magically, because by the way, it's simple to talk this. It's hard as fuck to put it into practice, right? But it's an ongoing process. So you got to invest in it, right?
Absolutely. Man, everything really does, come back to communication, right? Knowing what you want. I've been reading this book called Real Self-Care. And, her whole thing is going to the spa and massages and all that stuff, like it's all fake, right? Literally what you said. She's like, first of all, you need to understand like your values and what you need to prioritize, right? You need to communicate those things to the people on your team or the people around you. And then you need to hold true to it. Right. And it needs to be a daily practice, right?
It's got daily, daily is so important. No, everybody talks about, work-life balance. Like, and by the way, life, I'm like, life, me and my wife, that's it. No kids and no dogs now. Right. It's like, it's still, it still changes. Right. And so again, communication, what are these commitments I've made? Right. And then by the way, not holding true to my side or my other half not holding true to their side. Is there open enough communication and a good enough relationship where I can go, you're not holding up your side of this as we agreed. By the way, we're back to our patience. I told you life reflects. Yeah. I tell you, life, it just parallels managing a patient. And by the way, I was going to talk cancels. So if we think work-life balance are priorities, why the fuck would you have a zero cancellation policy? Why would you have a cancel policy? I respect your time. I respect your priorities. By the way, this is perfect. We just said communication, conversation, respect. So you and I are sitting in our eval, and I tell you, Sherrill, by the way, our cancel policy here is we ask for more than 24 hours notice if you need to change your appointment. Sherrill, I understand. Is it Sherrill or Cheryl?
No, it's Sherrill. Yeah.
Sorry.
No, you've been saying it perfect the whole time.
All right. Good.
Perfect.
And I say, so Sherrill, now I just told you I want more than 24. Sherrill, I understand life will take over. All I ask is if you are going to cancel in under 24 hours, make sure you call. Please don't no-show. And please be prepared to reschedule or make sure that you acknowledge the next appointment. That's all I need from you. I'm here for you. I'm investing my time, energy, and money in you, Sherrill. And I'm just asking you stay in contact and you respect the way we've set this up. That conversation, I'm going to argue right now. That conversation would solve 90% of the council issues. Because I'll tell you what, here's the other thing. I'm going to finish this out because someone's going to go off on this. I'm going to finish this off because then here we go. It's a relationship. It's a professional relationship. Now, I'm not going to tell you to hang out with people who don't respect you. So if Sherrill is constantly canceling and rescheduling, if Sherrill is now no showing, it's my responsibility to have a discussion with Sherrill of, do you value this relationship? By the way, here we are again, life, PTs, PT patients. I'm right. And this is the other big tell, right? That no one's willing to do this. Go up to the front desk and ask them to call your no-show. I'm like, no, you get the fuck on the phone. It's your fucking patient. You have the relationship. You call them. You own it. Well, they keep canceling. Well, then fire them. I'm like, Jesus Christ, 7 years of school and $200,000 in debt. I got to tell you how to manage a relationship. So it's a relationship. So Sherrill, we made an agreement on this journey together. And I asked for some, I gave you the guidelines and I asked you to do a couple things and you're not adhering to that. What do we need to do going forward? Are you able to abide by these guidelines I give you, or is it going to be too difficult? And can we talk about, it's not discharge you, by the way. Can we talk about other ways to make this successful for you? And then you open up and you go, Jerry, I really wanted to try to make 2 times a week or whatever it is. But Jerry, I can't do that. And I go, cool. Now, right, because I had this open conversation with you, we're now going to fix this. And you're going to go, Jerry, 1 time a week is the best I can do. Cool. You know what? Let's make this work. You're committed? Yeah. You commit to 1 day a week? Yeah. I really want this, Jerry. And if I do 1 time a week, we won't have to worry about these cancels. But no, what do? We put them on for 2 times a week. They cancel, they no show. We don't acknowledge it. And then finally they drop off because they can't do 2 times a week. And then we blame the patient.
Jerry, when you said all of that, people don't even know how to have the conversation that you just had within their families, within their spouse. Like, that's what you're saying all this. And I was like, this is brilliant. It should be taught in school, but also we don't even know how to have that conversation in our everyday life.
Well, so recently there's been a lot of, I don't know, kicks up in social media to me. So I go, the world, and then it's like, no, it's social media. But this conversation's kicked up on, like, it's always going to come up. People leaving the profession, people leaving. Yes. What are we going to do? And again, this is the focus on the result and not of the process, right? People are leaving the profession. So I went all the way back to the beginning. I said, who's coming into the profession? How are they prepared before they arrive? Then once we start to answer that question, then we can build a better process. But going one step before doesn't change it. But if we're looking at burnout, we got to go all the way back. People leaving, I'm like, I'm sitting across from people in interviews who don't know, outside of the PT they just did, they have, God, if you dropped them off in the wild, there's like cats out there that are going to survive better in the wild than this person if we just dropped them off in the wild. I was like, and you want me to hire you at how much a year? Thanks for coming. Don't call me, I'll call you. Yeah, I love it. It's always the system's fault. I'm like, so you just, I'm like, where do you come into this? And this is where we started, right? Me, you, me, my journey, my self-awareness, my shit. Now, mind you, again, if anybody's made it this far, I fucked this all up. I was that person. So just, I'm not sitting here going, I did it right and you're doing it wrong. I'm telling you, I fucking did it wrong. And then we started asking different questions. That's it. You
have shifted my perspective. I have so much to chew on.
Now you see why I responded to your Instagram when you asked that question. Now you see where that Instagram, right? When you posted that question on Instagram, this is where when you ask that, this is where my brain goes, right?
Wow.
You think about, have you ever read Frankl? I think it's Viktor Frankl, The Meaning of Life. He was in a concentration camp. He he has a graduate degree. I would say some kind of like PhD advanced degree. So he's a Jewish man who was in a concentration camp, who then got out and took that experience. This is beyond me. My brain, I sit and think about this stuff. I like this guy. I'm like, I would have crumbled under the pressure. I can tell you, I probably wouldn't have made it out. And so we take this person who had this experience, who then came out and wrote about all his learnings and applied it to life to better help people. And this Meaning of Life book, it is so deep and it goes so hard. And you're like, if this guy, and it wasn't like he was creating joy, don't get me wrong. Mm-hmm. But it does fit this conversation about how he talks about moving through this experience in a way without just all these. He wasn't always coming from a negative side. And it's so interesting. And it's an easy read. And it's a book you probably have to read more than once. And it's a book you'll put down and say, I'm not going to go back to. But it's that deep dive, because I still have a hard time grasping some of what he says. But again, respecting his experience, right? I go, how can I not, when I look at this, how can I not like go, how can I learn from this, right? What can I take away? And so this idea of just self-awareness in the moment, all this stuff that we know is important, and we say, this is the stuff. Oh, yeah. And I'm like, no, yeah, then, yeah, so you don't fucking get it. My favorite thing is, yeah. And I'm like, okay, so we start over. Is that what you're saying? And then my second favorite thing is, yeah, but, and I'm like, cool, tell me how everything I just said is wrong, please.
It's so funny hearing you say that, because at one point I was a yeah person.
Oh, I was too. Are you kidding me? I probably still am. By the way, if you want to talk sports or some of this other stuff, I'm just gonna go, yeah.
Oh my God. But it is such a powerful shift to shut up and stop saying yeah and be open and listen to what that person has to say. It will change your life. And I was thinking about like just how knuckleheaded I was. Just missing out on gems, because I know that. And then coming back and be like, dang, if I would have just shut up.
Well, and here you go. So here's my best advice to everybody. Here's the guy who circled back, go, fuck, if I would have shut up and learned to listen way earlier. If there's one takeaway, listen. That's saying, I'm going to butcher it, but it's like, don't listen to respond, or you know that saying, we're listening to respond versus listening to process. Yeah, I learned that really late in life, because I probably have spent the bulk of my life listening to respond. And so my biggest takeaway to tell anybody here is really work on, because by the way, here we go again, Sherrill, whether you're working with a patient or your family or your significant other, listen to process. Don't listen to respond. Absolutely. I tell you, man, PT, managing a patient and life are the same two things, man. Every question you've asked me, we've gone back and forth on that.
Honestly, this used to be a course. Like, what? I'm over here like, who are you? This is crazy. This is amazing. Okay. I'm gonna wrap up. I have a question. Final question for you is looking at like based on
Golden State Warriors is the answer to that question.
So done. I don't even know what that is. Is that a team?
That's right. It's an NBA. It's my NBA team. Right. So the NBA season just started. So I thought you were going to ask me who's going to win the NBA championship. So I just said Golden State Warriors.
No, I have
it's that time of year. I love my sports team. So
noted.
That's all right. Yeah. No, you don't have to do anything with that. Yeah. Go. I'll wait for the question.
That and raccoons.
Yeah. My wife's like, why is all that stuff in your feed? I'm like, because I tap it. I'm showing her raccoon stuff. She's like, where do you get that? I'm like, my feed.
Why raccoons?
I don't know.
Not the final answer, but
well, there is a little history. There is a little history, but I just, I like dogs. I'm not kind of a cat guy. A raccoon looks like kind of a cross between a cat and a dog. Like if you wanted the cross between the two and have a pet, you'd have the raccoon. And a little bit of panda bear in them. Yeah.
All right, I'll take it. I will take it. All right. So based off, what you've seen coaching, what would you say has been like the most common obstacle that like entrepreneurs have dealt with when it comes to growing their business? And then like what resources or support do you feel like has been the most beneficial for them?
So I think the biggest obstacle is owning what you don't know, which kind of fits with owning, getting rid of the ego and saying, I need help. And then the second part is, I think the best resource is the resource. So here, I'm going to challenge people is to choose people, choose mentors, choose coaches, choose consultants, choose advice from people who are where you want to be. I find too many people who have reached a part and they're speaking to someone who's right here or right here with them. I'm like, you got to start talking to new people. I had that conversation this week. I'm like, you're tapped out, man. You got to talk to someone who's been to where you want to go, right? You wouldn't take travel advice from some, oh yeah. Oh, you know where you have to go. Oh, it's an awesome place. And you're like, so you've been? No. I'm like, what the fuck am I talking to you? Cool. I'll take that under consideration, but what am I going to do with it? So you got to find the person. And by the way, which means, guess what, Sherrill? You're going to have to go, cool, Jerry, it's been real. I got to move on. Cool, Sherrill, it's been real. I got to move on. Cool, whoever, I got to move on, right? Because you're going to constantly be hitting the ceiling of the person you're working with. So ask the questions, where did you get to? Sherrill, how did you get, how far, so tell me a little bit about your experience, Sherrill. And when you're talking to me, I'm going to listen to, have you been on the journey? Did you take the journey that I'm now on? One of the best lines ever. And I used to say this before, but someone actually said this to me unsolicited on a sales call. So I'm talking to someone who would potentially be a new client. And he said, Jerry, I can see a path in front of me. I can see it, but I can't see down it. And I don't know how far it is. And I don't know what it's going to be like. And I need someone to come alongside me on that path who's been on that path. And he goes, that's why I'm calling you. And I went, cool, we're done. Yeah, he literally said, I know what path I got to go down, but I don't know how long it is. I don't know how dangerous it is. I don't know what the terrain is. So I want someone to come alongside me and take me down that path. My destination's down that path. It's over there, but I don't know what to do. So he's telling me, I don't know, which I totally love, right? He says, this is the destination I want, but I have no idea what the journey looks like. I need someone to come alongside me. Here's a great example of this. My favorite example ever. Of all the people who have ever climbed Mount Everest, right? The Sherpa, nobody knows a fucking Sherpa's name. So when you climb Mount Everest, you are given a Sherpa. This is a local who's probably been up the mountain 300 times. So you get to take a picture with all your friends and say, I climbed Mount Everest. No one ever takes a picture. So I call it a Sherpa mentality. You don't see Sherpas in the pictures. You barely see Sherpas in any of the stories. Mm-hmm. But these are the locals who guide the people on the journey up the mountain. And I'm like, and we're all celebrating. It's like celebrating, whatever. I won't go into anything else. We'll just leave it with this. But then they get to the top of the mountain. No one took a picture of the Sherpa, who, by the way, is going to go down and do it again fucking next week. But the Sherpa, that's the honor. That's their job. That's what they do. That's what we need to do. By the way, what a great life. Here we go again. What a great mentality for life. What a great mentality for treating our patients. So I'll leave it at that. So acknowledge what you don't, and then look at people who have been there. The Sherpa, right? I mean, right? If I'm going to climb Mount Everest, I don't want the dude who's done it once. Yeah, that's cool, bro. Yeah, I saw your pictures. That's fucking great. Who brought you up the fucking mountain? Oh, Bob? Yeah, let me talk to Bob. Oh yeah, I've been up and down the mountain 20 times probably. Cool, Bob. Let's talk.
Asking questions and acknowledging what you don't know, which also goes back to dropping that ego.
Self-awareness.
Yeah.
I had a business core value called be self-aware. It's just acknowledge, and being self-aware is acknowledging the self, the ego, all that. That's it. So I stuck with self-awareness, right? You can't get into this self-care mode. You can't get into mindset work if you won't be aware. And by the way, I'd argue you can't help other people until you at least get a hold of your shit.
And that made me go back to, who are we bringing in the profession at the first place? What self-awareness do they? Full circle. We love a full circle. Wow. Wow. Mic drop.
It's just right. It's reflection. It's making. And again, I'm going to say this again at the end. Everything I bitch about people, I was that person. The boss, the ego, all of it. So I'll own all of it. I'll own more than anybody will even know, except for maybe my wife. The shit, So and that's been good for me, right? And it's been good for the people around me, right? But it had to start with me, right?
You are a treasure. You are a gem. I am very grateful. Oh man. I can't wait to listen back.
You're going to have to share this with me. I want to cut this thing up and use it too.
Absolutely. Oh my gosh. What? Thank you. I'm so appreciative.
You are welcome. I appreciate your questions. You had great questions, right? I hope everybody sees the continuation, the continuity of this whole conversation. I feel like we've been talking the same thing the whole time. I really do, right? And the questions you asked and where we started, and then the questions, it's all come back to the same place where we started, right? Probably if you went back and listened to the beginning, we finished here with how exactly we started. This journey, the destination, understanding the destination, embracing the journey, embracing yourself on that journey, owning your superpowers, owning your weaknesses. By the way, I love telling people be self-aware, and it's not so you can change, it's just so you fucking know. By the way, the more self-aware I got, the more I embrace certain parts of me, and the more I just let others go, including weaknesses. I'm like, I know I got this weakness, I'll acknowledge it, but what the fuck am I going to do about it? Like, I have no fucking patience, right? I'm probably better, but I'm not going to work on that, right? I'm like, okay, if I acknowledge it and I can go in the moment, okay, just slow down, be patient, right? Then that's success, right? But it doesn't mean I'm more patient. You know what I mean? So absorb that stuff and figure out what you got to amplify and what you got to just go, cool, I got it. Acknowledgement is step 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, right? Not step 1. But I'm like, no, you don't acknowledge your weaknesses to change them. Just acknowledge them and then move forward from there, man.
And like you said, amplify the strengths. And I think when we can get there, we can kind of calm down on this whole perfectionist, like that perfectionism. Which
isn't that interesting? Yeah, that's a great point.
Like, how do you get over that? Right? Why? When did we start having to believe this idea of everything has to be perfect, or there's no weakness?
Well, now, and let's face it, you can't pick up Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, anything without seeing perfect defined for you, right? Which is why I love, my algorithm on Twitter, because it's all over the board. And I purposely have done that. I've never blocked anybody except for the porn bots that seem to like everything I post. So I just have to throw that aside, but I have literally never blocked anybody I disagreed with, because I'm like, I'm not creating that world, right? I'm not creating a silo. I'm not creating this. I need all this information to flow in so I can learn how to process it, so I can learn how to deal with it, so I understand what's going on in the world. I rarely stay out of conversations, but recently I have, but a lot of times it's just like, this is it, people. Right. And I want to see both sides.
Yeah. That's a very.
Yeah, it's interesting. I run into people all the time. I block them. I do this. I'm like, how about you just don't, you tell me you can't even have that in there. Just don't engage with them.
Right.
Now, you get into my sports world, I'll fucking troll everybody till tomorrow, right?
I'm done.
Oh, got it. Yeah.
I have to go and learn about sports and come back. So I
No,
just
that's right. No. But I'm just telling you. But otherwise, everything. You know, I have over 300,000 tweets. I'm like, people, you don't know how many tweets I typed and then deleted. Probably 50. I tell people there are 50,000 draft tweets just waiting to blow out one day. All my drafts folder could be a book on its own. The stuff I typed out went, yeah, I'm not going to send that right now.
Do you have a book?
Mhm.
No. I really want to interrupt you, but that was the thought I had earlier.
Oh, no, you're not interrupting.
Like this man needs a book.
Yeah. Hey, I've got a yeah. I think someone just wait, hold on. No, we're okay. But I got to jump on another call pretty quick. But we need to schedule another conversation.
Absolutely. I also too, I didn't end it out. I will end it out. And so well, Jerry, thank you so much for coming on, for giving us all of your wisdom and all of your gems. So appreciated.
Thank you for inviting me, and thank you for reaching out on Instagram so we could have that conversation. That kind of sat right. It was kind of cool. We asked some questions. I responded. We sat there, and then you responded again, and I said, "Cool." And then you invited me here, and look how well it's worked out.
Yeah, it's been amazing. Well,
I love it.
Thank you all, and I will see you on the next episode.